I was going to say, as I said earlier, the two new players, and in terms of being able to rotate the team and bringing in the quality. I think I said, did I say last week? I think I said I was kind of slightly more excited about Rodrigo Bentancur purely because of, this is a guy that I probably know a little bit more about, and also, he's a winner. He is a winner. He's 24 years old, exactly the same as Romero, but he comes in with 3 Serie A titles under his belt, pivotal in the last one in 2022 for Juventus. And he's a talented player. And you know what? It was a really funny, cameo. He had 18 minutes, technically. That's all it was, if you include the 5 minutes of added time. And it started off in just like the way that probably no player wants their debut to start, with a nutmeg. He was nutmegged. But what we got after that was really, really good. Spurs midfield, Winks and Højbjerg, was starting to look a little bit ragged. Brighton, like I said, kind of up the pressing, and they were starting to just get a little bit of a foothold in the game. And I felt he came in and he showed a composure. He's got very good feet. There was a couple of scenarios where just a little switch up of his feet, and he was able to get out of situations and give the ball to a teammate. And crowd responded. Crowd really liked that. Oh, Romero. I've just got to quickly say before I move way off from Romero. Romero did this tackle on Tariq Lamptey straight off about early maybe 10 minutes of the game. Tariq Lamptey, obviously highly rated, someone Spurs have kind of looked at as well in the past. Very fast, sprinting to the box. Bam! Romero took him out, and just took the ball away, and it was such a clean tackle. The anticipation shown was perfect. Everything about it, the timing was beautiful, and the crowd just really lifted. And it was a bit like, I think I spoke about this last week, Japhet Tanganga and that tackle against Man City. It was one of those moments that kind of just defined the rest of the game, and it showed like, we got this, we're in control, and it was such a big moment from Romero. But yeah, it reminded me because with Bentancur, the crowd kind of were quite lifted by a lot of the things he was doing. He's very tidy in possession. He described himself as being able to use the space. He's that kind of player. He kind of reads the game well, and you could see that. He's definitely going to provide another really interesting option to that midfield. He did pick up a yellow card. I think I said this last week, in the week, that he's going to be a player who picks up a lot of yellow cards, and that's going to mean Spurs are probably going to be without him for games at a time. But it's because he brings that aggression. It's because, yesterday's was more, he was trying to chase back, and he was, as South Americans do, if I'm going to hugely stereotype, you'll often see them. There's a lot of grabbing, there's a lot of pulling, there's a lot of hacking away at a player, which in the Premier League, they're a little bit less forgiving on. You'll get away with a little bit of it, but not too much. And so he got his yellow card, but he was good. He was good, and he was brought into kind of a game with a big crowd, a big noisy crowd, and he showed a lot of the attributes that I think we're going to hopefully see in the weeks ahead and months and hopefully years. You'd imagine it depends on Skippy and whether he recovers from his groin injury, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bentancur starts on Wednesday night. I wouldn't be surprised at all. There's a feeling within Italy that he revels when he's in a midfield 3 compared to a 2. So I do wonder, especially on a night like last night, when Sonny had some bright moments when he returned, worked very hard. Kane obviously was terrific. I'm going to talk about him, but Lucas Moura, not the greatest night, gave the ball away a lot. He kind of struggled, I think, just to keep the ball at his feet. He just didn't have the impact that we know he can have. And I wonder whether Conte looks at a game like that and thinks, with Bentancur now, maybe the 3-5-2 is something that I can use a little bit more often. Keep an eye formation-wise. I do wonder whether that's going to make the difference. But he looked at home. He did. He looked very at home in the Tottenham Hotspur shirt and in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and he used the ball very well. Only a cameo, and we'll obviously get a larger sample size. And similar goes for Dejan Kulusevski as well. He got, how long did he get? 27 minutes on the pitch. And I think he showed kind of both sides to his game as well. He showed a lot of good things, a lot of creative ability. And also kind of sides to his game, which I think raw elements that I think Conte will be looking forward to getting into and improving as well. He's only 21. Yeah, he's a big, big talent. He really is. Ahead of the game, Conte referred to him as a great talent. So that kind of tells you, if someone like Conte is saying that, it's not just idle praise. It is really meant. That's the best way to describe him. He's very direct. He's very progressive with the ball. Physically, he's ready for the Premier League. There was one moment just outside his own box when he kind of shouldered, I can't remember who it was. He shouldered a Brighton player off the ball, took the ball away and kind of swept up the pitch. And we're going to come to some of Conte's comments about recruitment. And you can see with Kulusevski what he means. He's a player who has all the talent, but also has the physical attributes to survive in the Premier League. So, yeah, he's going to be... it was only 27 minutes worth of evidence, of course. So, but he could have, set up Steven Bergwijn, who, I couldn't believe it was one of those. It was back to old Steven Bergwijn in a way. He had a big moment, unmarked, in front of goal, about 8 yards out, and he skied it over the bar. Some people have said, I couldn't see, obviously, from where I was, and I think I saw one replay from the press box, but ultimately, some people are saying that it was a bit of a bobble of the ball right in front of him, which didn't help. But just kind of from my angle, it looked like posture-wise he was leaning back, and that's why the ball went up. But so there was that, and then Kulusevski also teed up Kane for a shot from the edge of the box, which I think went wide. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. So on the day, Kulusevski could have had 2 assists. What is there to work on? I don't know if it's something you can work on. He's not the quickest. It's not saying he's slow, but he's not the quickest. He's not going to have that Lucas Moura kind of searing pace to take him away from people. Probably not as fast as Bergwijn either. And there were a few moments in this game where other players slightly caught up with him. But that's not an issue, because I think he's got the creative ability to kind of get around that. And like I say, I'm not saying he's slow. He's not like a snail going up the pitch. It just means that he's obviously going to have to use his brain a little bit more than sometimes the faster players have to. The other thing I noticed, and again, this is only on 27 minutes of play, was that he kept cutting inside a lot onto on his left foot. He didn't really seem to trust his right foot very much at all. I should point out, because I've had a couple of Swedish fans who, understandably, have got a lot of invested in this guy and a lot of hope for him, and they picked up on my noticing that in this game that he was using his left a lot. Obviously, this is not more. He is a naturally left-footed player who plays on the right normally, and he does like to cut in. But my only thing I said in my analysis was that I hope this doesn't become, on the night it was slightly predictable, and I hope it doesn't become a thing that teams are able to target because they know he'll always come inside. And they quite rightly, the Swedish fans said, we've seen lots of him, he doesn't do that all the time, and he's not slow and all that. And I was like, didn't say he was slow, said he's not the quickest, especially when you're comparing someone like Lucas Moura, and have different options is a good thing. And the fact that, if he does sometimes go down the right, and he sometimes will put in a cross with his right foot, maybe that's a good thing. But as I said last week, I keep saying last week in the video, it wasn't even that long ago now, it was a few days, wasn't it, Tuesday, I think it was. He's perfect for one of these 2 number 10 slots behind Harry Kane. He is. The ability to operate inside the pitch is going to be a big thing for him. And he did a lot of good stuff inside yesterday. A lot of kind of progression to play, knocking it out to Bergwijn at times on the left. And Kane as well, he linked up a couple of times with. He's a very promising player. He is. So don't worry, Swedish fans. I certainly am. I think maybe there's a slight hypersensitivity, because I did notice some people on social media were digging him out already, and I'm not adding to that at all. Honestly, the positives way outweighed those little things about him that I just noticed in just a small sample size. And it was something that, to be fair, was shared by a lot of the press box. I could hear similar things being said about the reliance on his left foot last night, and also not being able to motor away from players. But it's no bad thing. 21 years old. He's a hell of a talent, honestly. Another one who I'd be surprised if Spurs don't make it a permanent at the end of the 18 months. Obviously, people might have thought that about Jenson Fernandez, but different players we're talking about here. Very different players. And it was good. And Conte said some good stuff about him. actually, of both of them. He said it was important for them to breathe the atmosphere, the two new signings. For us, for Dejan Kulusevski and Rodrigo Bentancur, it was important to come in and to understand the intensity of this league. I repeat, two good players, two young players with talent, they can help us. Rodrigo, despite his age, only 24 years old, has a lot of experience because he played 120 games for Juventus. Kulusevski the same. I think they can help us. I'm pleased that I gave them the opportunity to come in and also breathe this fantastic atmosphere in our stadium. Our fans, the noise tonight was so intense that it was also very difficult to communicate with the players. It was important for the new signings to come in and to understand very well that this league is very difficult. When you come in from another league, you need a bit of time to understand the intensity and understand the difficulty is very high. For me tonight, to give them the possibility to come in and play 20-25 minutes was important for Kulusevski and Bentancur. I repeat, two good signings for us and they can help us for the rest of the season. Now start the second part of the season, and I think with these two new signings we are more complete as a squad. He's a bit funny with his amount of games that Bentancur's played. We've had a couple of press conferences now, pre and post the game, and in both of them he's wildly gone different angles on how many games Bentancur's played, and he keeps kind of underselling it. I think he wants to make the point that, and he kind of said it on Friday in his press conference, that these are young players who fit Tottenham's philosophy. And I think he kind of want to play on this angle as they're young and they need a lot of work and they're not kind of winners in a way. But it keeps underselling Bentancur because, like I say, Bentancur's played a lot of games. I think it's got about 200, almost 200 games for Juventus. Won 3 Serie A titles with them. He's not, despite... And he kind of also touched on this. I think he realised yesterday, it was almost like, well, you know, he might be young, but actually, yeah, he is pretty experienced. And he kind of seems to slightly be changing the way he'd been angling that line. But no, I thought they both showed really kind of good little moments and what we can expect. And it's very early days. You know, Kulusevski's had 4 or 5 days to work with the team. Bentancur, he arrived on Thursday morning, did a training session on Thursday afternoon. So he's barely had day and a half to work with the team. You watch these players getting proper coaching time with Conte. They're both very excited about him. You can tell in various quotes, and there's more quotes to come from them where they absolutely rave about Conte. Honestly, big part in them joining as well as the club, but also the thought of having a man like that train you and coach you. So yeah, they will get better. They will, and you know, if you think about that 3-5-2 as well. That's the one worry, perhaps, is that when they're playing with the 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, depending on how you want to look at it, that bench only really has a couple of attacking options. It only really has, like last night was just Bergwijn and Kulusevski. Dane Scarlett, obviously very young, still not really to be considered a kind of a game-changing bench player yet, but he will. I do believe he will, hopefully. But yeah, I'd say with the 3-5-2, then suddenly you have a bench that has Lucas, Bergwijn and Kulusevski. And you've got a lot of game changers on there if needed. It changes that slightly. It's good about... That's the good thing, I think, is that in Lucas, Kulusevski and Bergwijn, he's got 3 very different attacking options compared to Son, you know. And I think that's a good thing. It really is. So we'll see how that works, but just... My only fear is if there's a couple of injuries. You know, I think maybe just could have done with one more personally. And we're going to talk towards the end of this. A young player they're potentially looking at today.